Let's take a trip back to a year when gas was cheap, sideburns were long, and the music charts, well, they were something else entirely. Forget what the youngsters are listening to today. 1974 delivered a batch of #1 hits that were, let's just say, memorable for reasons you might not entirely recall. We're diving deep into the sounds that dominated the airwaves, the stories behind the bands, and maybe unearthing a little dirt along the way. Get ready to have your memories jogged, and maybe your eyebrows raised. First up, we've got Al Wilson with Show and Tell. Now, Al wasn't exactly an overnight sensation. He'd been kicking around the music scene since the late 50s, starting out with local groups in Meridian, Mississippi, before finally finding some traction in Los Angeles in the late 60s. What's interesting is that for a guy with such a smooth, soulful voice, his early career was more about R&B and blues. Show and Tell, this undeniably catchy tune, marked a significant shift towards a more pop-friendly sound, a move that some of his earlier fans probably scoffed at, accusing him of selling out for mainstream success. Here's a little something you might not know. Show and Tell was actually written by Joe Tex, a soul singer known for his talking-style vocals and hits like You Said a Mouthful. Tex originally recorded the song himself, but his version never charted. It was Wilson's smoother, more polished take that resonated with the masses, proving that sometimes it's not just about the song, but who's singing it. Then came Barbra Streisand with The Way We Were. Stryand, a powerhouse vocalist with a stage presence that could command a stadium, had already carved out a significant career on Broadway and in film by this point, but here's the thing. While she was lauded for her talent, some critics often pointed to her carefully constructed image and the almost manufactured sentimentality of some of her ballads. The Way We Were, while undeniably beautiful and a massive hit, certainly played into that romantic, almost cinematic quality she cultivated.
Maybe beautiful and yeah.
A fun tidbit about this iconic song, it was the theme song for the film of the same name, starring Streisand and Robert Redford. What many don't realize is that the melody was almost entirely different in an early version of the film. It was composer Marvin Hamlish who reworked it into the soaring, melancholic tune we all remember. Imagine if the movie and the song had sounded completely different. Next on our list is Terry Jacks with Seasons in the Sun. Now, this one's a bit of a downer, isn't it? A song about saying goodbye to a loved one as death approaches. Cheerful stuff, right? Jax, a Canadian singer and songwriter, had previously been part of a band called the Poppy Family, known for their lighter, more upbeat sound. So, for him to release something this heavy was a bit of a departure. Some folks found its raw emotion powerful, while others probably thought it was a bit morbid for the top of the pop charts.
We've known each other since we were 9 or 10.
Here's a slightly unsettling fact. The song is actually an English adaptation of a French song called Les Moribonds by Jacques Brel, a Belgian singer-songwriter known for his intense and often cynical lyrics. Brel's original version is even darker and more sardonic than Jack's rendition. So, while Jack's version tugged at the heartstrings, Brel's might have just given you the creeps. Alright, we've had a few trips down memory lane. What are your thoughts so far? Did these songs define '74 for you? Or what memories do they stir up? Don't be shy. Share your stories in the comments below. And hey, if you're enjoying this little journey back in time, give that like button a click. It lets us know you want more of this. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into the music that shaped us. Share this with your buddies who remember these tunes, and let's get a good conversation going. Moving on, we have Sher with Dark Lady. Sher, by this point, was already a seasoned performer, having conquered the music world with Sunny and then forging a successful solo career. But Dark Lady was a bit of a departure from her earlier pop rock anthems. It delved into a more theatrical, almost gothic storytelling style, complete with gypsies, fortune tellers, and a tale of betrayal. Some might have seen it as a bold artistic move, while others probably just found it a bit, dramatic.
Motion Queen! pushing her cat in a black limousine.
Well, here's a surprising tidbit. The song was originally intended for another singer, Darlene Love. Producer Snuff Garrett played the song for Sher, and she reportedly loved it so much she insisted on recording it herself. Can you imagine Darlene Love singing about a dark lady? It would have had a completely different vibe, don't you think? Next up is John Denver with Sunshine on My Shoulders. Now, Denver was the quintessential easy-listening artist of the era. His wholesome image and folksy tunes resonated with a huge audience. But let's be honest, some folks probably found his earnestness a little much. All that talk about nature and simple living. It wasn't exactly rock and roll rebellion, but still, you can't deny the sheer popularity of this song. Here's a little nugget. Denver actually wrote the song several years before it became a massive hit. He reportedly penned it in a dreary hotel room in Minnesota, longing for the sunshine. It took a few years and a re-recording for it to finally climb to the top of the charts, proving that sometimes a good song just needs the right moment to shine. Then we have Blue Suede with Hooked on a Feeling. This one was, well, it was certainly unique. A Swedish band taking a Mark James Penn song, originally a minor hit for B.J. Thomas, and turning it into a Ooga Chaka fueled phenomenon. It was either brilliant or utterly bizarre, depending on who you asked. It definitely stood out on the radio waves, that's for sure. Here's a fun fact that might surprise you. The Ooga Chaka sound wasn't originally part of Blue Suede's version.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
It was a sample lifted from a 1968 Jonathan King recording of the song. The band's producer accidentally stumbled upon it and decided to incorporate it, instantly making the song unforgettable, for better or worse anyways. All right, we're halfway through our 1974 chart toppers. What's hitting you the hardest in terms of nostalgia? Are there any of these songs you secretly still crank up? Well, we want to hear about it. Jump down to the comments and share your memories, your opinions, even the ones that might be a little controversial. And if you're enjoying this trip back in time, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It helps others find our little corner of music history. Seriously, please click that like button. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more where this came from. Share this video with your friends who lived through this era, and let's see what they remember. Next up, we have MFSB featuring the 3 Degrees with T-Sop, or The Sound of Philadelphia. Now, this wasn't your typical pop chart topper. It was instrumental, for crying out loud. But what an instrumental it was. This track became synonymous with the hugely popular television show Soul Train, instantly giving it a massive built-in audience. MFSB, which stood for Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, was a collective of studio musicians based at the Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia, the heart of the burgeoning Philly soul sound. Here's an interesting point. While the instrumental version was a huge hit, there was actually a vocal version with lyrics, though it wasn't nearly as successful. The infectious groove and those iconic horns were clearly the stars of the show. It proved that you didn't need words to capture the nation's attention, just a killer beat. Then came Elton John with Benny and the Jets. Elton, by this point, was already a global superstar, churning out hit after hit, but Benny and the Jets was a bit of an oddity. With its slightly off-kilter piano riff, its almost theatrical vocals, and its somewhat ambiguous lyrics about a fictional band, it wasn't your typical straightforward pop song. Some critics found it experimental and brilliant, while others probably just scratched their heads. Here's a little-known fact, though. Elton John himself was initially hesitant about releasing Benny and the Jets as a single in the U.S. He reportedly thought it wouldn't be a hit. Thankfully, his record label convinced him otherwise, and it went on to become one of his signature tunes. Goes to show, even the artists themselves don't always know what will resonate with the public. Next on our list is Grand Funk Railroad with The Locomotion. Grand Funk Railroad was a band that always seemed to divide opinion. Their raw blues rock sound and their blue-collar appeal earned them a massive following, but they were often dismissed by critics as being unsophisticated. releasing a cover of a song that was already a hit for Little Eva back in the early 60s? Well, some probably saw it as a sellout, a move toward more mainstream pop, while others likely just enjoyed the catchy tune. Here's a surprising detail. Grand Funk's version of the Locomotion was actually produced by Todd Rundgren, a musician and producer known for his more art rock leanings. It was definitely an unlikely pairing, and Rundgren's slicker production definitely gave the song a different feel than Grand Funk's usual raw sound. And finally, we arrive at Ray Stevens with The Streak. Oh boy, The Streak! This novelty song, with its suggestive lyrics about a guy running naked through public places, was undeniably a massive hit. But let's be real, it was also pretty ridiculous. It capitalized on the streaking craze of the time, a fad that thankfully didn't last too long. Some probably found it hilarious and harmless fun, while others likely cringed every time it came on the radio.
Oh, yes, they call him the streak. Fastest thing on 2 feet.
Here's a somewhat unbelievable fact. Ray Stevens actually won a Grammy Award for Best Comedy Performance for The Streak. Yes, a song about a naked guy running around won a Grammy. It just goes to show you how big of a phenomenon it was, even if it wasn't exactly high art. Well, there you have it. A whirlwind tour through the #1 songs of 1974. It was a year of some truly unforgettable and sometimes undeniably strange music. What are your lasting impressions of these tunes? Did we miss anything crucial? Head down to the comments and let us know what you think. We want to hear your stories, your memories, and even your slightly controversial opinions about these chart toppers. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this trip back in time. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the music that shaped our lives. And share this video with your friends. And let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time for another look at the sounds that defined an era.